first show, the first episode, Recovery Plugs. How should I sit? Like this? Should I sit like this? Just relax. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is our first episode, Recovery Plugs. This is something that me and Barbie and Thomas McGee decided to put together. Basically do interviews from people in recovery and get some raw stories and some information from them and just, see what, just to see what's going on in the recovery world. Recovery Plugs is kind of the thought of, if you need recovery, we got you. If you need a resource, we got you. We're your plug. We're your recovery plug. Barbie was my first recovery plug whenever I first got into recovery. If I needed anything, I needed to know about family law, child support. If I needed to know what recovery house to send someone, if I needed to know if there was a house that would take babies and women, she was the one that would hook me up and send me in the right direction. And this is Barbie. So I welcome y'all. A lot of y'all know her. She really needs no introduction. She's all over the place, and she's an amazing person, probably one of my best friends. And this is her.
Donnie, thank you so much. I'm excited about this. Starting this Recovery Plus, I'm really excited. And I've always been a fan of Another Chance ministry that you do, and I feel like you reach a whole network, community of people with that ministry. And so, just anything we go to do, I'm excited for.
She is my girl BFF for y'all that don't know. So
that's right, boy BFF.
That's what's up. So, you do a lot of things in the recovery world. But you wasn't always like that. I mean, you didn't come from a recovery background. I mean, you didn't grow up being in recovery anything. I mean, you had to get to that point. So what got you there? I mean, what are the things in life that led you to where you needed recovery?
Well, I have 5 dogs.
Hey, hold on. When we say we are raw, that is exactly what we mean. I mean, we are raw today. So go ahead.
Well, I have 5 dogs, so I think this cat's not feeling it right now.
I know. It's true.
But, so, I mean, I grew up here in Kansas City. I am from 5th Street. My family, I grew up, I have an Italian family. I lost my grandpa at a young age. He passed of cancer. And when I say young, because now, I mean, I was like, 16, 17. And that was just kind of where I went off the deep end because he was always a glue to everything. And the reason that I was with my grandparents all my life is because my mom had her own struggles. And my dad definitely had his own struggles. I love this cat. I love this cat.
Oh, let me get that. Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right.
So, so I had, so my grandparents raised me, my mom struggled with addiction. Same, my dad struggled with a lot of things. And my grandparents raised me. And when my grandpa passed, it was really hard on me. And I just went with a whole set of different things. It only takes one person to meet, and then it can be off and running.
Right. So when you say off and running, like what happened?
Well, I've always known people that in different. I don't know how you want to call it. You can call it organized.
Wow.
Organized lifestyles.
Please do not ask any questions that may incriminate you or me in any situation.
Right. Yeah. And I started, I was like, I wanted to make some money. It was just my grandma at this point, and I wanted to make some money. And I was able to do that by running errands. I started running some errands, and next thing I know, it's sell a little dope here, sell a little dope here. When I say that, I'm talking about meth. And back in 93 and 94, it was completely different, than it is now. But it was just one of those things that I started to allow to consume me, meaning I started seeing the money that I could make at it. And I decided to get more and more involved, where eventually I became my own plug.
So basically, it was there's something you wanted to do, it wasn't, you went and had fun. The fun stops. I mean, it always does. So what happened? Where did it stop? How did you know that you were at a point where like, look, this is no longer fun. My life sucks. It's going down the drain. I need to get out.
Well, I mean, I have 20 plus years under my belt
Mm,
of drug use, drug sales, and manufacturing. Like that's all I did. That's
mm,
what I lived and breathed for 20 years.
mm,
Um, and pretty much it started to where I was just dibble dabbling, do a little bit here, mostly involved in lifestyle, but not really using. But when I started using even just small amounts, the problem with that was it just doesn't stay that way. Okay. And over the years, you incarcerated, you're in and out, you get your house kicked in, you get, I mean, just and the people in general is just it's like a lot of things can happen with that lifestyle. And it wasn't so much the incarceration bothered me or, getting my house kicked in or, losing everything over and over because I have to move in the middle of the night because I'm under investigation. It was I think one of the biggest downhills for me was when I picked up the needle.
mm.
I just, smoking it, snorting it, all eating it, it just wasn't doing it for me anymore. And since I had my own supply, I I was constantly doing it. And so someone had said to me, "Oh, you got to try it like this." Like I was a person that I was like, I will never ever stick a needle in my arm.
Mm.
I said I will never do that. And it came to a point where I did do that.
Right.
And I'll say probably, I lost my kids, DFS entered the picture. Like I said, in and out of jail, incarceration, like all these things were happening. It didn't matter. I was still getting high. And that's really all I wanted to do was get high. So I would say, now this didn't stop me, but this slowed me down, was I was robbed. I was set up actually from a partner of mine, and they had owed a lot of money towards a gambling debt, and they decided that they were going to set me up to be robbed.
Mm.
And they took 14,007 ounces of drugs that was in my car and on me, and I was beat within an inch of my life when that situation occurred, and I was dumped out like trash.
And that was enough. You just stopped doing drugs after that. I mean, that seems like that would be enough for any normal person to just stop doing drugs. Is that happened to you?
No.
So you continue, you went back. It
Yeah.
wasn't enough.
Yeah. So not only did I go back, but I went back full force because I realized in that moment that if you could have no care, concern, no, just you could do that to somebody,
Right.
that I was on another level and I had to get to that level
Mm.
because that's what actually brought me to that level to where now I'm all in. You have my attention.
Right.
Now I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it to the fullest. And anyone in my way is exactly that, in my way.
Mm. So you went hard.
Hard.
Hard. So when did it stop?
I mean,
What was your bottom? When did you decide? Tell me what the week leading up to you deciding to stop doing drugs.
so my kids were just still involved with CPS, but kind of back and forth between me and my mom's. And I I was dating this guy who, and you know what, it's always the tattooed, really good looking ones that every time will get you hemmed straight up, just hemmed up.
So
Red flags, yeah. And I knew the red flags was there. I was watching it and I could see it plain as day. But I was actually setting up a deal between me, my partner, this guy that I was with. I didn't know, they always say keep your friends closer, your enemies closer, and it's kind of what I was doing with him because I knew he was my enemy. But I had him at my house, and he brought his friend to my house, and I had a friend there, and I was waiting on my partner to come because they wanted to do a deal. And at this time this was happening, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this was going to turn real bad real soon. when the guy walked across my living room and he looked down at me, the guy that I didn't know that was there with the guy that I did know, when he looked down at me, I know that look. And that look was like, your number's up. You know, like this is getting ready to happen. And what went down was I had stepped into the other room and I called my partner that I was waiting on to show up with everything. And I said, don't come here and don't answer your phone from my phone anymore. And I hung up. And I went back out there. The guy had asked me, hey, where's your boy? And I had said, I don't know. Here, you call him. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not, here, you call him. And he called, no answer. And then about that time, when the guy walked back across the room, I was reaching for my weapon, and 27 officers kicked my door in with dogs. Threw us all on the ground, and they were looking for a hostage. Now, my first thought was, oh my gosh, I hope no one has someone in the trunk of their car here, or, you know, tied up outside of my house in the back, or, but I didn't realize it till later that I was the one that was getting ready to be taken hostage. I was the one that was getting ready to be robbed. Now, the reason I come about to know this was that I was taken into custody for multiple warrants and, you know, whatever, and questioning on some things, but the other people, okay, one person went through a window, and the other people in the house, the police took us outside. I go to jail, and I hear them in jail, and they're talking about this house that had been robbed, and they're life flighting um, a child to the hospital. This always gets me because I feel like I contributed to that family's murder, to that family's death, just because of the drugs that I was putting on the street. And the I was sitting there and they were talking about the life flight and this child and these two people in his family had been shot. And when I was in jail, they came to question me. And at the time, you know, I knew that the person in the house was going to rob me. And so when the police came to talk to me, I definitely wasn't telling them anything. I definitely had nothing to say to them, because if they go and arrest a person, I can't get to them. And this was where I had a lot of hate, and you know, I felt like I don't want to look over my shoulder from you, so I'm going to handle this myself. I had a lot of hate over that deal, and the detective said we had an informant working with us, and they told us about robberies that were going to occur to two holding houses, your address and another address. The informant gave them the addresses backwards on how the robbery was going to go down, and my house was surrounded, but the house they were supposed to be at was the one that was actually where everyone died, and they were robbed and killed. Wow. So, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So so you carried a lot of shame, a lot of regret.
I mean, I carried a lot of guilt and a lot of shame just because, you know, I mean, if what I'm selling, if the drug that I was selling on the street, you know, and I never looked back and thought about all the families I've destroyed, all the kids that went without Christmas, right, dinner, and clothes because I was selling their parents meth.
So, I mean, a lot of people get to that point in life, and instead of wanting to live, they just want to die and end their life. What made you decide to go the other way and change your life? Like, what?
Well, to be honest with you, you know, I mean, I was a junkie of all junkies. You know, I mean, it's not that I couldn't afford to buy hypodermic needles.
Right.
I couldn't wait to get high. So I would go through my own just house finding my old needles to get high. You know, so I mean, I was miserable. Like I was broken in so many ways that I didn't think I could ever get fixed. I didn't think I could ever come back. I didn't think I could ever come back from that life ever. Like that was the only choice I had. And believe me, everyone that I was involved with would tell me the same thing. You can't do nothing. You're not gonna be able to do nothing else. And getting sober, not using that's you're a junkie for life. And that's what they would tell me. And I believed it. You know, when I was sitting in jail that night that all that happened, it was like I heard this voice. And I asked the jailer, I said, "What did you say?" And he said, "Nothing, Miss Daniels, take a seat." And, and then I heard it again. And it said, "I just saved you from yourself." And I remember thinking that was really weird, but I remember thinking that, you know, I might be able to do something different. In just that moment, in just a brief moment sitting there, the thought occurred to me that I might be able to have a different life, you know, and then it went away. I went to jail, come out of jail, you know, I decided that while I was in jail, I wasn't gonna go back to my house. I wasn't gonna go back to anything, my cars, my money, my stash, anything. I had a lot of stuff in my house. I had a nice place, you know. I was gonna leave it all to do something different because all of it to me at that point had blood on it. Like all of it at that point to me, I don't want nothing to do with it. And so I went to the healing house.
Mm.
I actually called them and they said they'd come down and get me.
So, how did you know about the healing house?
Well, because I had tried to go there before. Yeah. And I was there before. And Mama Judy and Bobby Joe said, stay away from that tattoo boy. And I didn't.
Mm.
And that's what happened.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you're at the healing house. Man, that's crazy. I'm gonna adjust myself because that was a lot, dude.
Yeah.
Um, so you reached your bottom. You went back to the healing house. Now everything's good, right? I mean, it's all no.
No. But I will tell you this. When I went back there, you know, I was at the jail waiting for them to come get me. Because I called them to bomb me out. I was like, look, you're right. I need your help, you know? And they said, we'll come and get you. And I was waiting for them to come get me. Now, I don't know anybody else that's been in Jackson County Jail, but have you ever heard of where someone from in the jail tracks you down, comes out from behind there to hand you a phone number to call? Have you ever heard of anyone doing it? I've never heard of it. I've never seen them do that. I've been there multiple times. Okay? And this worker at the jail did that. And he hands me this number, and I halfway recognize the number. And I thought to myself, I know that that's not their number. And I know that they said they'd come and get me. And I get out there, and I don't see anybody. I don't see Mama Judy, Bobby Joe, Gary. They're going to see Gary probably. I didn't see anybody. And I went outside, and I realized that number was that guy, one of his friends. And I just felt this darkness outside. I was by myself. I felt this darkness come over me, and I was like, I got to get out of here. So I stopped this lady, and I asked her to give me a ride to 4400 St. John, the healing house. She said, I really won't let anyone in my car. And I said, I understand that. You know, I don't blame you, really. And she said, what's in your bag? And I said, I dumped it out. It was just a Bible. And she said, oh, were you in jail? And I said, yeah, I was. And she said, okay, I'll take you. I'll take you. She said, my car's right up here. So we're walking up to her car. We get in the car. She starts to drive. She's actually listening. Well, at the time, I didn't know what Christian music was, but as I look back, as I remember back, I remember it was like, it wasn't regular music. Right. So I was like, what is this? And she was, had the radio on and then she starts to cry. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is wrong with this lady? Like, why is she crying? And I was like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. She says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She said, I just came from the jail too. Mm. She said, but I wasn't incarcerated. Huh? She was taking the message. No, she was there visiting her son. And this is where I know for a fact now, after this incident happened, that my life would never be the same. So, I told you about how I had all that hate in me from the people that tried to set me up. And I just didn't feel like, I was going to be able to let that go. Because, my kids were supposed to be there that night. And if I hadn't had a gut feeling, I took them to my mom's, and the other house had a child in it. And so I had this, it was just this overwhelming, consuming feeling of retaliation against these people. Mm. And this lady, she says, yeah, I was in there visiting my son. And she said, I had 2 boys. She said, I was a single mom. I used to work 2, 3 jobs. She said, I was gone so much working that I really couldn't be there a lot to see what they were doing. And she said, one of them started hanging with a group of friends. And he started doing drugs, hanging out, doing meth. And so did his brother. Now, the one with this certain group of friends, he went somewhere with them, and I guess they wanted some drugs, and they went and got it, and then some other guys came and shot and killed them for it. Mm. And then she said, and my other son he's going to do multiple years in prison because he wanted meth so bad. He went in the house and murdered multiple people, and he's not getting out. Now, when she went on to tell me, she went on to tell the story, and she'd mentioned her son's name. Right. And I realized I was writing with the mother of the guys involved in my incident. Wow. And wow. I felt so bad for her. Wow. I felt so, and she'd asked me, she said, have you ever struggled with drugs or meth? And I said, no. I said, nope. And I will tell you, she lost her husband. Her husband left her. She had these kids. Mm. She did everything. She said, and she told me, she said they were good kids. I'd work 2 jobs. They'd clean the house, do the dishes. Mm. They'd help me when I come home. They helped me, and they were good kids. And she said, and that destroyed them. Mm. So I think at that moment, I felt so bad for her in that situation that I wasn't thinking so much of how much I hated them. Hated him, or hated just how they were involved. Right. But I couldn't believe it. I was kind of shocked too. What are the odds of that? Crazy. Yeah, so she drops me off. I go in, and my life is 100% different from that minute on.
All right, so now that we've gotten to that part, we went. It sounds odd that you went hard out there. Like when you were doing your thing, you went hard. You didn't. There was nothing that held you back. You went all the way. So when you got into recovery, is that the same way that you attacked it? Mm-hmm. You just go hard. And so, from experience, I know that recovery, walking away, getting away from everything that you know, and turning over and leaving, doing stuff different. It's not easy. There's trials. It's rough. What are some of the things that you did early in recovery that you had to use the same mentality? Go hard or go home?
Everything. So, so the thing is everything I did to survive on the streets, everything I did for my drug addiction, even just that, mentality of I don't have any other options.
Mm-hmm.
See, using for me didn't become a choice. It became not an option. Like I can wake up and I'm going to choose what outfit I'm going to wear today. I can choose if I'm going to have oatmeal or eggs.
Right.
I could choose, a bunch of things. But the one thing that I took off the table as a choice was today I'm not getting high. It's not an option. And I did go real hard for this new life, just like I did on the streets. Like I wasn't taking anything less.
So what are some of the describe your first year of recovery?
Well, my first year in recovery was at the Healing House, and at first I was like, man, they got a lot of rules. They were trying to stick somebody with me, like they said you have to have somebody with you to walk down the street. I'm like, this is my neighborhood. I'm northeast, north end, what I'm saying, bread. Like I don't need anyone to walk to the store with me. And I realized they were doing that because, it's accountability. Like you have a buddy, They didn't let me have a cell phone, thank goodness. They had all these rules in place, and at first I was just like, this is ridiculous. But at the same time, I said to myself, maybe it's not that ridiculous because I'm a freaking junkie.
Mm-hmm.
Away from here, I'm sitting somewhere getting high, plotting my next felony,
right.
Thinking about things that I should not be doing. I wasn't thinking about getting my kids back. I wasn't thinking about helping others or having a right life or some. I wasn't doing any of that. I will say that on some of my darkest days in addiction, I do feel like God knew where my heart was,
mm-hmm.
and when He delivered me, He delivered me.
Right.
So He had taken all that away from me,
mm-hmm.
but yet at the same time, I'm still like working this recovery program because I didn't even realize it,
right.
And so it was like going to meetings, doing a chore. I had to live upstairs with a bunch of women in this loft in these like beds, kind of, and they all want to chit chat, and I don't like chit chat. They all want to share makeup and do hair, and that's not how I get down. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this.
Barbie saying that she don't like chit chat.
Well, I didn't at the time because it was just like, but I you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be nice,
right.
I'm gonna be nice and try something different. Like that was it, like that. So taking direction from the people that ran the recovery house was the first thing for me because I needed direction. I was lost. Somebody lost needs direction, and when you're used to running stuff or you're used to being your own boss or you're used to, the street life, you don't want to listen to what anyone else has to say because you're doing what you want to do 24/7. And that's the thing. You're going to continue to do that 24/7 until you decide you're going to make a change. And that's take the direction. That's right.
So you what about your kids? I mean, we lost kind of like when you first got into recovery. Did you have custody of your kids? Were they?
When I first got in recovery, I had missed so many court hearings that my case for termination of parental rights was in progress. So this gets me too. So they contacted me at the Healing House, and they had said that your termination of parental rights hearing is coming up, and we'd like for you to be there. Mm-hmm. You haven't attended any hearings, and you need to at least be at this one. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Well, I went to talk to Mama Judy and Natasha Kirsch, which I'll tell you all about that. It's pretty exciting there. Natasha is, I has said to them, hey, I'm losing the rights to my kids at this court date, and I'd really like if you go and you can be there because, I don't have any way of showing them that I'm trying to do something different, and I have a horrible record. but if you guys could go, maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll
So
see.
you were asking for an advocate.
I was asking for someone to go advocate for
Right.
me.
Imagine that. It does get better.
So they went, and I mean, I was just, I mean, in this courtroom, they had not one nice thing to say to me. I had to comment, and I'm about, I don't know, 27 papers into this, like, termination of rights hearing. And the judge says, Ms. Daniels, something's different about you from the first time I saw you, which hasn't been much, because you don't like to come to court. And he said, what's different today? I said, well, Your Honor, I am living in a recovery house. I am not using drugs, and I'm trying to get my life together. And I'm not breaking any laws.
Right.
No, so not only am I not using, but I pulled away from that lifestyle completely. And he said, and you're staying at the healing house. And I said, yes. And he said, do you want your kids back? Do you want to be a mom? You want your kids and your wife? And I said, I do. And I've been horrible about that. Like I've been horrible, And Natasha got up and spoke in my behalf. Bobby Joe got up, spoke in my behalf. And, there's guardian ad litems and attorneys, and there's, people at a courtroom that are not for me. But those are the only two that were. And after they spoke, the judge said, I'm going to tell you what. He says, Bobby Joe, can those kids come there? Does she have a place for them there? Bobby Joe says, no, but I can get her an apartment there where she'll have a place for them to come. And I can make that happen today.
Right.
And Natasha, they'd ask me, well, how are you making money? How are you working? How are you making money? She said she's working for me in the office there. So it was like, everything. And the judge said, I want someone to do a home visit, go there, see where the kids are going to be, and I want those kids returned home. And we'll continue this, but I want them back with her. Like, how does that happen?
I can see why Barbie advocates now for. That's what I said. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. I know now you're full custody of your kids. I mean,
full custody.
Sole
custody.
Sole
custody. Yes.
So I have some questions actually from your peers.
Yeah.
They wanted to ask me, and there's some really good questions in here. That first question would be from Mike Hempel, and he wants to know, what is the meaning of gangster to you now?
To me now.
Yes, to you now. Like, as going from what it was to what it is now. Like, he wants to know what it means to you now.
Well, what it means to me now is I'm a single mom of a daughter with special needs. She has autism. She has a learning disability. She has some other issues, ODD, which is hard on a lot of the days. She's 10, and I also have a 17-year-old daughter who's a mom now.
So you're a grandma.
I'm a grand diva.
Grandma.
I'm a grandma. Grand diva. And for me, being a gangster today is just the fact that I'm a single mom. I have a career. I don't have a job. I have a career. And I go every day. I go to work every day. I work, and I give my best every day to the families that I work with. I'm there for my daughter. I make sure I'm getting the best resources, the best support around her situation that she could possibly have. I feel like, because at the end of the day, a lot of times people, I don't know, they look at single moms, well, they take care of their kids. But if you think about it, the single mom works. She pays for the house. She pays for her transportation. The single mom, so when you have kids, what comes with kids? You got to have groceries. You got to cook. You got to feed them. You got to go to dental appointments. You got to go to doctor's appointments. Then if you have a child with special needs, you got therapy appointments, you got case management. I mean, you got a lot of stuff you got to do. So to me, being a gangster in this life is going as hard as I can to do right by my kids and everyone around me, to show them a different example of what their life doesn't have to look like and what it can look like.
So instead of repping that hood, that Northeast hood, you repping motherhood.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a good answer. So Nick Viglia, how do you pronounce it?
Viglaturo.
You should know.
I do.
When did you realize that you had the responsibility to help others?
Well, you know, when I realized what a gift God had given me when He delivered me from drugs, when I realized what a gift peace and joy was, and like my days weren't my days were, I mean, they're like a gift,
Right.
And I realized that I want to help other people because people stepped in and helped me, and I wanted to give back what was given to me because I just feel like, I don't have this great of a life to hold it to myself. Like, I love the way my life is today. I love life today. And it really doesn't mean anything if I just keep it.
So the next question is from Tommy.
Tommy McGee.
Tommy McGee. He wants to know who, because and I remember you saying that everybody said you're a junkie, you're never going to be anything. So who was the first person that told you something different that you believed, like they inspired that hope that you could change?
The first person?
Yeah.
Gosh, oh my gosh, let me see. So, I mean, when you go to the healing house, the moms are right there. Bobby Joe, Mama Judy, and they're like, hey, you're welcome. Come in here. We love you. We're here for you. And I think just the fact that they opened their doors for me and they were willing to come get me, that like meant a lot to me. And Natasha Kirsch was working, and I'll tell you, she's the founder of the Grooming Project.
Right.
And she was actually working at the Healing House doing grant writing and doing philanthropy work while she was getting her master's for non-for-profit and being, working in the non-for-profit field. And, it was hard for me down there because I was unemployable because of my record. Like I didn't have a way to pay my rent. And so at first the moms were, they were trying to figure something out because they didn't want to have to put me out. We just had to figure something out. But any place I was applying, my background was hindering me. It was stopping me. And so Natasha had said, can she work in the office for me, and I'll have her, pay her rent, or she can work to pay her rent here. And so I'll tell you, when those ladies went into that courtroom for me, like that was a game changer. And just, she was so nice to me down there. Like, she didn't care that I couldn't use an email. She didn't care that, when someone called, I'd be like, well, who is this? Well, I'm not going to tell you if she's here or not. I need to know who this is. She didn't care that I was complete street. She actually said, here, let's find out what your strengths are out there, turn them around and use them as strengths in here. And that's how I ended up hustling, raising money,
right.
for the healing house. And I would get donations in for banquet dinners, and I would, silent auctions, and just anything that, I believed in what everyone was doing. And I would talk to people and I would ask them for the help, and I would get them to believe and see what amazing things are going on, and they would do it.
So Coach Bob Sprouting.
Pastor Bob.
He wants to know, what is the most difficult challenge that you've had of staying sober?
Oh, the most difficult challenge of staying sober.
Yeah.
I will say, a year into this, I realized there's nothing I want more. But in that first year, one of the biggest challenges was just believing in myself, liking myself. I mean, trying to figure out who I was, not on drugs. And that was hard. And a lot of times, I would be tired and I would get, kind of just, feel like I don't belong. Like I don't belong here with these people.
Right.
I belong doing, criminal activity. Like I belong out there high. That's where I'm from. And so working through that, realizing that it's okay if I don't fit in right now. That's okay. I'm doing the best I can, and I know that the only thing that has for me is death in prison again.
Which this kind of leads into this next question from John Monk.
John Monk.
He wants to know, after you've cut ties from your playgrounds and your playmates, what keeps you from going back, like that loneliness and because a lot of people when they get when they cut all that off, they get lonely and they ain't got any friends, and so they go back to what they know. What keeps you from doing that, or what kept you from doing that, or however you want?
Death in prison.
Death in prison.
Yeah.
I mean, you were like right in Northeast. I mean, like that was your.
I was right there, yeah.
I mean, so there, your playground, you were pretty much in your playground.
Yeah.
You were just scared to die.
I mean, no, it was more like, here's the thing. If I try at something and fail, that's okay. Mm-hmm. But there's a problem if I don't try.
Right.
And when I try, I want to give it my all. I want to give it my all. I want to give 100%. Okay. And the thing with the playgrounds and playmates, well, to be honest with you, I didn't really lose much there. Right. I mean, it's not like they were writing me.
Right.
When I was locked up, it's not like they were, calling or making sure I'm doing okay or, checking on me I mean, pretty much this is like this. When I didn't have dope to sell them or give them, they weren't calling me.
Right.
So changing my playgrounds and playmates, I was bored for a little while, and I just had to start filling that stuff with new things, making new friends, going to meetings. Instead of going to trap houses, going to meetings.
That's right.
Instead of calling my old people, making new friends. I had to really get out of I had to become really uncomfortable and get out of my comfort zone, because the thing is change doesn't happen unless you change something. And if you're not changing something, you're gonna do what you know unless you make a whole effort to do something different. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Next question is from Darren Jackson. What is one memory of your addiction that continues to bring you gratitude now that you changed?
Well, I wanted to just kind of go back a minute on that, because, I do what John said when I changed playgrounds and playmates. So, I mean, I did walk into a church where half my playmates were sober.
Yeah,
his brother Josh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like walking in and seeing Josh and, Matt, and I mean, like all these different people that were in the church. And I'm thinking to myself, this is amazing. So really it was some of the old playmates, they were fed up too. They wanted a new life too.
Yeah. So they say, what's something in your addiction that you look back on now and be like, thank God I don't live like that anymore?
Oh man. Only one? What? Only one thing?
Yeah, just one. One memory.
I'm gonna have to say when I was using. Like it was just
using period.
It's horrible.
Digging through the trash for your needles, and you don't have to live like that.
Digging through the trash.
Thank God.
I mean, and like, I'm gonna be real honest. Like, I'm gonna be real honest with this. Like, I wasn't, I was so addicted that, I mean, my arms, of course, they're scarred up and whatnot. And I used to wear all these long sleeves, to cover my arms because I was embarrassed. Now I don't mind so much. I'll wear tank tops, I'll wear tank tops because if anyone ever says anything, it always gives me an opportunity to tell them for me what Jesus did in my life. But, it was not a pretty sight. For me, I was sick a lot. I would yell and scream at my kids to get out of, you know what I'm saying? Like, go do something, get out of here. You know, when I did have them, and this is just on visits, going to go outside, go do something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
Not
like,
right now.
huh?
Not
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. So I mean, like, I was just miserable. Like, I hate it. I look back now and I can't stand anything about who I was.
Becky Pellman.
Becky.
Pellman, is that right? That's
Becky
your
Pelham,
name.
yes.
I've always. What is the biggest mistake that you've made in recovery?
Ah,
How did you overcome it?
the biggest mistake I made in recovery was to doubt myself so much. You know, because I'm my own worst enemy.
Right.
I don't need haters. I don't need, you know, I'm my own worst enemy. I can self-sabotage and, you know, make myself think these different things and stuff. And it's like, you know, I can destroy anything good in my life, just my thoughts take me there, you know. And so the mistakes I made in recovery, I think, is that probably just getting to a point where I feel like sometimes, you know, like I would say in my third year in, I kind of got to a point where I thought, you know, oh, I don't need all this other stuff. I don't need meetings, or I don't need, you know, church, or I don't need this. I can, you know, I'm good now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I never thought about going back and using, but I did make the mistake because of thinking like that I don't need those things, because I do, because it helps me, and it helps me be the person I want to be. It helps me grow. So I think one of the other mistakes that I made is working with people in recovery. And sometimes I want it bad for them.
Right.
I want it more than they want it, you know? And it gets hard because, you know, you get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I mean, probably that would be my biggest mistake.
So Amy Hall asked.
Amy Hall.
Yeah, she asked, what did it take in your life to make you realize you need to change the way you're living? We talked about that earlier. You answered that question. That was the last decision that you made, or do you have another answer for that?
No, that was pretty much, we talked about it earlier. You know, I mean, there were several reasons why I needed to change the way I was living. But the fact of it is that it didn't matter that all those things were going on. I was, you know, still going to do it.
And then the last question is from Lester.
Yeah.
Lester Decker. What is the hardest thing you've had to do in your recovery?
Huh. Well, I mean, to me, I mean, it's easy getting sober.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to stay sober. You know.
I've heard that told the opposite direction. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean,
I've heard people say it's hard getting sober. Once you are, it's easy to stay that way.
Yeah, see, for me, it was different.
Right.
You know, and I mean, oh, I just think. Wait, read the question one more time.
What's the hardest thing you had to do? Like the hardest decision you've had to make since you've been sober?
The hardest decision I've had to make since I've been sober. Gosh. Help me on this one. Like, what, like, decision doing what?
I mean, I could go. You want to get raw? You go with decisions that you've had to make with your children.
Yeah.
I know personally knowing you, I know some of the decisions that you've had to make, but I'm not gonna let you make that because we are being recorded. So
yeah. So, well, okay, help me out here. Throw it out there. I mean, because I'm. Like,
I don't know. I mean, I can't. I don't want to throw you out there. I want you.
Okay, throw me out there.
Nope. The hardest decision that you've had to make. This is your question.
I know, but I
I'm
can't.
not
Oh my God.
for you.
The hardest decision I've had. I mean, there's a lot of hard decisions.
Okay, well, pick one. Pick one hard decision you've had to make. I mean, you can't say pass. You have the freedom.
No, I won't pass.
You have the freedom to say pass.
The hardest decision, or one of the hardest decisions. Okay, so my mom had gotten custody and adopted my son. I have a son. and she's been with him. He's been with her his whole life. And she came into a situation where, he was removed from her because he wouldn't go to school, and they were having some struggles and stuff, and and you know, I mean, me and my mom haven't always gotten along and stuff, and in a lot of situations. And they had approached me about being a foster placement to my own son that I lost, and in doing so, helping my mom and stuff. And that's a hard decision because I have a lot, what I'm saying, like a lot of things that, I don't know, I feel some type of way about, but at the same time, who better to help than me, you know? Uh, I've had a lot of hard decisions. I don't know.
And you survived every one of them.
I have survived every one of them. Okay, so I'm going to say another hard decision. And that was with my daughter, Sienna. Mm-hmm. And she got really sad one day, and she ended up going in. I went to the store, and she was home with her sister, and she ended up going in and getting all these her pills. And she had taken a whole bunch of these pills that were supposed to be for like anxiety and stuff, but she took an amount that shut her body down. Mm-hmm. So she overdosed. And Sophia called me and called 911. Sophia called me, and I said, hang up and dial 911 from the house phone. And then I was calling 911 in the car from my cell phone on the way there. And I was thinking, that it was just maybe she, fell asleep. She took the pills and went to sleep. And I just wasn't grasping it, And when I run into the house, she was face down on the floor. I was trying to drag her to my car because I felt like the ambulance wasn't getting there fast enough, and I was going to have to take her to the hospital. And she started having stuff come out of her mouth, and that was just, I was starting to like really full of fear right now. The ambulance came, and they had to resuscitate her on my front porch. And I went into the hospital, and one of the hardest decisions I had to make in that hospital was what we were going to do if she was going to leave there when she left there. Mm-hmm. Like how we were going to move forward, where she was going to go, what some options she had. And when you've lost a kid and you get the kid back, you have all these fears and these things. It's like, I don't want to lose them again, right. But at this point, I wanted her to be able to, whatever we had to do to get that, to get that worked on to help her, mm-hmm. I was willing to do. So I think one of the hardest decisions was just being in that moment and talking to him and saying, look, I don't even know how she got those. Like, I don't even know. And, it's kind of scary because you don't know what's going to happen. But she now, she has a little baby, mm-hmm. and she did survive that. And she's like, I have the cutest grandson ever.
Yeah, I remember that was like, 2 years ago that happened?
Yeah.
And look, you're still made, still living, still sober,
still sober.
Still
recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where we're going to shut this down. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to share some of your achievements, some of the things you found, some of the things you're doing now, some of the things that you actually are part of, the grooming project,
yeah,
stuff like that. I know you advocate for people in court now, and you have other young ladies that are going through stuff in family law and family court and all that stuff. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I actually started my first jobs, that I kind of got started in this was working for Heartland Center for Behavioral Change, mm-hmm. and doing UAs. And I kind of did that latter thing where, I took the entry position to be able to get to where I initially, drug counseling, CPS, intake coordinator, front desk, all of that. And I was just Heartland for a long time. I still love Heartland. And you know what I'm saying, just recently, like not just a few months ago, I was still going back and doing groups, you know, because I want to, because I love doing groups, you know, recovery groups. And, but 3 years ago, I was with Heartland for 3 years. And then 3 years ago, I made a decision. So Natasha Kersett, I met down at Healing House. She let me work for her in the office. She would tell me, she would say, you know, I'm going to open this non-for-profit and it's going to help single moms like yourself. And, you know, she's going to have you come and work for me. And, you know, you think, oh, okay, all right, you know, but she did. And then she came back and got me. And so like what I do now is I'm a caseworker and an advocate for the families in our program, the Grooming Project. And it's what we do there is we're not-for-profit. And we offer this job training skill. So we'll teach them a job training skill of dog grooming, but we have these wraparound services that come with it. So it's a credentialed certified school for dog grooming where we have 100% job placement, you know, that get the certification. And then, but going through this program, this is like for families that, you know, are on assistance. They're trying to break that cycle of poverty. They're, you know, really wanting to, you know, get this career so that they can support their family, you know, their kids. And we do these whole wraparound services of, you know, the case management. We offer classes like the budgeting is real intense. We do budgeting, you know, we work with CSL on budgeting. We work with, we have our parenting classes that we have all the clients go to. And, you know, I mean, we help them dental assistance after the first 30 days in the program, the law advocacy, the court advocacy. And the thing about it is this is what's so amazing to me, is that Natasha, being the founder of this program, walking into court with me, advocating for me to get my kids back, has now helped me to be in a position to do this for hundreds of moms, you know, and I love it. The recovery plug.
So, if anybody out there can relate to Barbie, or if you, I mean, she's here. She's here. She's been through it. She's very easy to talk to, very easy to approach. If you need anything, like if you have any questions regarding anything that has to do with recovery or getting your kids back or any of that stuff, just don't hesitate to reach out to her. We will post her name, obviously, to tag, you know what I'm saying? I'll tag her name. We'll put the information for the recovery project and everything that she's involved in. You guys can easily reach out and ask questions. And that's it. I mean,
well, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Do you say anything about my outfit?
Oh, I love it. I love your outfit.
Especially
the shirt, because I can see what you
guys
are doing. You know what I'm saying?
What does that say?
Yeah, Hope Dealer.
Hope Dealer.
If we were a production studio and actually had someone to cut the videos in and out, I would probably have had an intro song by 7. The Hope Dealer.
Oh yeah,
song.
Hope Dealer. That's my jam.
Everywhere she goes, she has this like theme music that she plays before she walks in.
It's my intro song.
It's her intro song everywhere she goes. So,
well, I'm glad that you noticed my Hope Dealer shirt. And the thing is I do like that saying, the Hope Dealer, because I think that, you know, no matter what I do throughout my day or no matter what else goes on during the week, the one thing I'm still slinging is hope. Right. And that's what you know, as long as you can have a little bit of hope, you know, you can try to, you know, spread that hope with your story, and all of us can do it. It's not just what I can do, it's what we all can do. Right. So I actually would like for you to hold something. I'm gonna let you hold something.
Let me get that though.
And I'm hoping, you know, you can deal that hope with me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's me. You know
now we're hope dealers together.
Cool, I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
And that's it, y'all. That is the first episode. We'll see Thomas McGee next week.
Good night.